That's his bill. It's on consent. Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Chair and members, low-income communities and communities of color are and will continue to be disproportionately impacted by the effects of our climate changing. As we think about how to structure our state's climate programs, as we discuss percentages and parameters, this is a reality we cannot ignore and must strive to remedy. Today I'm presenting Assembly Bill 1550, which builds on the success of our climate equity efforts to date by ensuring a greater investment in California's environmentally and socially economic disadvantaged populations. AB 1550 requires that at least 25% of cap and trades funds be spent on projects located directly within disadvantaged communities and identified by Cal EnviroScreen to ensure that that level of investment in DACs equals their share of the population. The bill also requires an additional 25% of funds to benefit low-income households. While Cal EnviroScreen is a valuable tool for capturing cumulative impacts in communities, it is widely recognized that there are poor and working-class households that lie outside of DACs. But the struggle to make ends meet and spend a large portion of their incomes on necessities such as water, energy, housing, and transportation. Several of you on the dais today have such communities in your districts. If we wish to foster a shared statewide commitment to tackling pressing environmental issues, we must take advantage of opportunities to lift poor and working Californians out of poverty while reducing greenhouse gas emissions and building sustainable communities. I will be accepting an author's amendment to make the percentage of funds required to benefit low-income households unspecified at this time. I commit to working with stakeholders to determine the appropriate size of the percentage as the bill moves forward, while not undermining my negotiating position with the other House and the administration. I ask for your aye vote. And I accept the other committee suggested amendment as well as an author's amendment.
And there's one issue that we're still working on. It's my understanding that it is not the author's intent to disqualify transit funds, which right now qualify as part of the 25% because they go through a disadvantaged community. Of course, most transit lines hopefully go farther than just in one community. Often they take someone from a disadvantaged community into their place of employment or the place of shopping. It is my understanding that it is the author's intent that we not disqualify transit projects, so that the commitment is that he will continue to work with the committee so that we can draft language to make sure of that. It would be normally my hope to have this ready beforehand, but with the avalanche of bills that we still have to deal with in our next meeting, I thought for the committee members' benefit that it might be better to hear this bill today. And is that your understanding as well, Mr. Gomez?
Correct. Correct. We'll continue having that discussion and make sure that we reach an appropriate conclusion and possible amendment that hopefully becomes agreeable to all stakeholders involved.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Hadley.
Mr. Chairman, just given the statement you made, where is this bill being referred to out of this committee?
Appropriations.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to address the transit issue as well.
Mr. Chairman and members, Bill McGavern for the Coalition for Clean Air, the SB 535 Coalition, and also registering the support of Environment California. This bill builds on the success of SB 535, which was enacted 4 years ago to address what researchers have identified as the climate gap, the fact that it's disadvantaged communities that are damaged the worst by the effects of climate change, much more so than the rest of the state, and yet it's those communities that have the least resources with which to address the impacts of climate change. This bill would raise the percentage of funds to be spent within disadvantaged communities so that it is equivalent to the percentage of the Californians that live within those communities. So just reaching parity, 25% of Californians live in disadvantaged communities. This bill would say at least 25% of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund should be spent within those communities. Our coalition actually prioritizes public transit for spending in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, and in fact, the vast majority of the transit spending that has been spent so far has been spent within disadvantaged communities. 84% of the Transit Intercity Rail Capital Program has been spent within disadvantaged communities, and 69% of low-carbon transit operations has been spent within those communities. So the same definitions that govern that would apply. So we're confident that this bill would actually advantage transit, and we'll be happy to work on language that makes that clear.
Other witnesses in support?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Alvaro Sanchez. I'm the Environmental Equity Director at the Greenlining Institute. Greenlining support of AB 1550 comes from our belief that the most impacted communities in California deserve equitable investments to combat climate change and poverty. AB 1550's approach to climate investments recognizes both communities the need to focus our clean energy dollars in California's disadvantaged communities at a rate commensurate to the actual need identified by the state, and better targets benefits to low-income households both inside and outside of disadvantaged communities. AB 1550 is seeking to make adjustment that cements the progress achieved by climate investments thus far, particularly the recent finding that 39% of the implemented dollars are located within disadvantaged communities, by raising the floor of investments in disadvantaged communities to 25%. AB 1550 will keep California climate investments on solid path towards the solid path that it has started with. AB 1550 is also addressing a key equity issue that has been identified through the early course of implementation. Currently, Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund programs do not have policy requirements that target benefits to low-income households. This means that the term benefit is met by wide-ranging definitions that do not always ensure equitable investments that benefit the most in need. For example, electric vehicle rebates going to households of any income currently count towards benefiting disadvantaged communities as long as the vehicle resides in a zip code that contains a disadvantaged community census tract. AB 1550 would ensure that the benefit is targeted clearly to a low-income household in or outside of a disadvantaged community census tract. In addition, many low-income households that could benefit from programs like low-income weatherization and solar, low-carbon transportation, affordable housing, enhanced public transit, forestry, and urban greening, but are not within a disadvantaged community, are essentially locked out of participating in this important program. I am sure we all want to extend this program to as many Californians as we can, and AB 1550 will do just that. For the low-income category, we believe that AB 1550 targets benefits in a much better way. Several programs that already benefit low-income households, such as low-income weatherization and solar, will be able to serve populations that are literally across the street from a disadvantaged community that currently cannot be served. It would also allow programs like affordable housing and sustainable communities to invest in non-disadvantaged communities while still serving a most at need population, thus making it easier to place housing near jobs, schools, centers, and not only building housing in distressed communities. Proposed new programs like transformative climate communities and free transit passes for low-income populations will easily meet the low-income household requirement, while existing programs will, with minor adjustments to their guidelines, will also be able to meet that requirement. Something amazing is happening in California, and we're setting the example for fighting climate change and poverty at the same time. I believe AB 1550 supporters see what's happening, and want us to do more to green up the communities that light up red and ensure we're not leaving out disturbing communities in the process. This is the type of policy the nation looks at California to lead on, and the reason why we are seen as leaders on climate change across the world. I encourage you to vote in favor of AB 1550 and look forward to answering any of your questions.
Other witnesses in support, just please state your name, your organization, and your support.
Chelsea Tu with Public Advocates in support.
Danielle Lynch, California Association of Local Conservation Corps, and the Los Angeles Conservation Corps in support.
Katrina Robinson on behalf of California Trout, Audubon, California, Valley Clean Air Now, and the Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust in support.
Emmy Wang with the Greenlining Institute in support.
Quentin Foster on behalf of the California Environmental Justice Alliance, and also on behalf of Trust for Public Land, in strong support of AB 1550. Thank you.
Corey Bullis on behalf of Environmental Defense Fund in support.
Michelle Passero with the Nature Conservancy in support.
Diana Vasquez with Sierra Club California in support.
Claire Scott with Fresno Economic Opportunities Commission in support. California Van Pool Authority in support. And Los Angeles Neighborhood Land Trust in support.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Matt Klopfenstein on behalf of the Union of Concerned Scientists in support. Thank you.
Jenna Price on behalf of the California League of Conservation Voters and California Relief in support.
Keith Nakatani, Clean Water Action in support.
Amy Trainer with the California Coastal Protection Network in support.
Jim Lindberg on behalf of the Friends Committee on Legislation at California. We're in support.
Witnesses in opposition?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Amy Mago on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce in opposition. Cal Chamber supports the cost-effective implementation of AB 32. However, the decision of the California Air Resources Board to arbitrarily withhold and sell allowances will raise billions of dollars from taxpayers, which runs contrary to the express goals of AB 32, which is to maximize benefits and minimize leakage risks and costs. As Cal Chamber's long held, CARB lacks the legal authority to raise revenue through the auctioning of allowances, and given the substantial legal uncertainties surrounding the auction, we must oppose. Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought they're only testifying once.
Questions, comments from the committee? Mr. Wood.
Questions. How would this additional 25%, how does that affect poor communities that are not considered disadvantaged in the Cal screen?
The adjustment would allow those communities to actually be able to participate in the programs, thus extending the benefits to them. So, for example, a low-income household that resides outside of a disadvantaged community that currently cannot get benefit from low-income weatherization or electric vehicle rebates at a maximum level would be able to then get them.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Gomez.
I think I cut off one. There was one more witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, and members. Rebecca Long with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. We don't actually have an opposed position on the bill at this time, but I did want to just go on the record with some concerns. I think, as you have heard, the Bay Area has a lot of concerns with the Cal screen, and I think this bill goes definitely a step in the right direction by focusing on low-income census tracts. However, we are concerned with the increase from 10 to 25% of the funds having to benefit to be invested within Cal screen census tracts, because we do not think the Cal screen is a good metric at all. You know, it's not only that it ignores low-income communities, it also ignores some of the most exposed to diesel particulate matter census tracts. It's just a flawed tool, wasn't intended for distribution of funds to begin with. So we really would urge you to take a pause. There's a lot of bills on the subject, and we think that, you know, they're all well-intentioned, but we're very concerned about this bill. Thank you.
Respond to that one.
Comments, questions from the committee? I will agree that there is an outstanding issue of whether Cal screen is the best metric, and when you're talking about 25% or 50% of the whole pot, it behooves you to think about getting that even more accurate. Cal screen conspicuously leaves out rural communities. It conspicuously leaves out communities that are in poverty in next to affluence, right? And so it does not take into account things like cost of living or housing market or other factors that may deepen poverty in such places as the Bay Area or Santa Barbara or elsewhere where there is poverty amid affluence. But I'm glad that you're tackling a big issue. I think it deserves some encouragement and some willingness from the committee to work with you on that issue. I hope that we can continue to work on the transit. I do think that there needs to be some belt and suspenders changing the criteria by which we have allocated so much funds successfully to disadvantaged communities for transit should not be taken lightly and should have clarification in the bill. Ms. Garcia.
I want to thank the author for working on this, the issue of helping low-income individuals who do not live in a disadvantaged community is, I think, important if we're going to discuss equity. Whether it's Cal Enviro Screener or not, even with that, we don't always get equity, and we see that with the first few rounds of money of what's going on, even for disadvantaged communities. And I apologize, I haven't had a chance to look at all the language for this bill. Is there language in the bill to look or collect data to make sure that as we are helping individual households who are low income get this money, that it's being spread across the state and not concentrated in pockets like, say, South LA, that is still part of the city of LA and has more resources to go and help their constituents get these monies?
While the language in the bill might not address that specifically, the programs themselves, have various approaches on how to make their investments more equitable across the state. They also get a lot of questions and concerns around equitable distribution of their programs. And I know that looking at the investment from each program agency by each agency, they have different mechanisms by which to try to equitably distribute that and not concentrate their investments all in one area.
But we could say now, if we look at the first few rounds, we notice that their system hasn't worked, because when you have the 5 most populated cities in the LA County getting the least money, it's not a system that works. And so today, it's not a reason to oppose the bill for me today, but it is a concern that I would like to see that we take seriously and try to address as this bill moves forward. I know you have many steps and lots of stakeholders and the other house to work with, but I will in the future reserve my vote if we don't have that discussion. I think it's something that gets lost along the way, in addition to the rural communities, in addition to communities where you have more affluence, but you still have plenty of low-income folks that should be coming into this.
There's already Assembly Bill 1532, which requires the Department of Finance to submit those annual reports to the legislature on the status and the outcomes of the projects funded from the GGRF fund. The reports list and describe each individual project funded by GGRF. There will also be publishing additional project level data for each of these projects on the program's website sometime soon, including specific project location, GHG reductions, and benefits to disadvantaged communities. I also agree, though, that you have to actually use the data and tweak the program if it's not working. And Assemblymember Garcia and I have had discussions about how some of the parts of our state are getting left behind, and we need to fix that. And that's why I'm supporting your bill and Mr. Alejo's bill. But we do need to figure out how do we create that feedback loop where these programs can be adjusted if there is gaps. And I looked at your district specifically. There is a gap. I looked at Mr. Rendon's district specifically, and there is a gap. So I recognize that. And I'm going to be very cognizant of that as the bill moves through this entire legislative process. And I hope that what we do will garner your full support in the end.
And it's that gap. We collect a lot of data. I've been talking about it in this committee for 4 years, and I feel like a broken record. And so I often will have people telling me, from the same advocates that stood up for my bill, say, well, we want to work with you directly. And I said, yeah, let's sit down and talk about this. And let me help you get into my community. And we have discussions, but it hasn't manifested into much. So there is a lot of frustration. So I would like to see that we have some sort of mechanism that will help close the loop, and it's not just left to good faith, because I have no more good faith left on this issue. But I think the discussion you're having is important, and particularly with our low-income individuals who are not in disadvantaged communities. And so I do appreciate that discussion as it moves forward.
Other comments, questions from the committee? Do we have a motion? Motion by Stone, second by Wood. Would you like to close?
Members, I think that the cap and trade program, AB 32, and what we're trying to achieve is crucial. but I do feel that certain people feel left behind by some of our environmental programs. This lack of equity at times, at least what people perceive as lack of equity, and sometimes rightly or wrongly they perceive it to be true, we need to actually take steps to fix it. Because if not, then we're going to just see a corrosion and an undermining of the support for our environmental policies. So I am definitely committed to addressing this issue in the long term to make sure that we build not only a more equitable cap and trade, more equitable GGRF program, but also environmental policies that will move the state forward for the next 20 to 50 years. Ask for your aye vote.
Chair's recommendation is aye. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended and re-refer to Appropriations Committee. Williams?
Aye.
Williams, aye. Jones?
Aye.
Jones, aye. Christina Garcia?
Aye.
Garcia, aye. Gomez?
Aye.
Gomez, aye. Hadley?
Not voting.
Hadley not voting. Harper? McCarty? Stone?
Aye.
Stone, aye. Wood?
Aye.
Wood, aye.
6-0. That is sufficient. Your bill's out.
Thank you.